Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear Professor Bonne, thank you for the invitation for the Museum of Cultures Basel being present here at this symposium and conference. Greetings from our director Anna Schmidt, who could not leave from Basel today, unfortunately, so I'm replacing her. The Museum of Cultures Basel is the largest ethnographic museum in Switzerland, and it goes back to the late 19th century. And we had the chance to have a renovation of the whole building. And the renovation of a whole building means that you have to empty the whole house. So all the collections go back to the storeroom. And the former director did not actually want to have a new concept in the exhibition halls, but we thought this would be an opportunity and we should think over the concepts and the exhibitions that have not changed very much from the, let's say, after the Second World War. So this is the new exhibition hall on top of the building that you see there, this strange kind of structure. It's a contemporary interpretation architecturally of the historical landscape of the old town of Basel City. And underneath that roof is, of course, the floors with the different permanent and also one temporary exhibition space. So just to give you an idea, it's located right in front of the cathedral, so we are in the city center. Now, having an empty building, we thought over what is actually a museum. So basically, a museum is a place of abstraction. We do not represent the reality as it is. And of course, the museum is a place of critical reflection. We do not try to imitate things that we think they are, somehow they're outside, but we try to reflect on things, on processes that are going on. And then we came to the thing, what do we do with exhibitions? Do we have permanent exhibitions? Yes, we do have permanent exhibitions, and how should they be organized? Traditionally, anthropological museums have an Asia hall, an Africa hall, maybe an America hall. So they are oriented geographically or regionally, and we dropped this and we are doing thematic exhibitions, sometimes with a regional focus, of course. But basically the approach to exhibitions is thematic. And how do we orient ourselves? With a thematic approach, and we identified 5 key terms that were discussed in the social sciences in the last 20 or 30 years. And these key terms are the following. Of course, for an ethnographic museum, kind of the thing is, what are ethnic groups? So communities is like the basic category that we are dealing with. But we're not only talking about ethnic communities. Nowadays we have virtual communities, for example. We have agency as a very important term. We have space, knowledge, and performance as other important terms. Now this is a backbone that is a guideline for us to approach themes and to ask questions to our collections. But we wanted to have an orientation for the visitors to see how we actually do approach the questions that we are dealing with, and how do we actually go to the themes that we present in exhibitions. So the 5 key terms that we have, we present them in a kind of leisure way. We do not force them upon the visitor, but we just give an idea of what it can be. So when you come into the museum, you will see some photographs showing communities. And as mentioned before, these are virtual communities that found themselves in the internet and came together in the physical world for the first time for the photo shoots that you see here. So communities, what are communities? How do communities form themselves, and how do they dissolve themselves? The first floor then, when you go up the stairs, is agency. What you see here is a figure from the Javanese wayang kulit shadow play, and it's a kind of a trickster figure. So a figure where the puppeteer has the opportunity to criticize society and actual political things that are going on. So it's about what can we do in given structures? How can we transgress borders, and what are the consequences, for example? Going up again one floor is a map from the Marshall Islands, and it's a different concept of space. A map that is used to instruct young navigators to navigate in the islands. And again, one floor up is a lintel from Middle America. It's a tikal lintel from a temple, and it's a kind of a complex iconographic thing that is depicted there. So it's about knowledge. You have to know what is there to be able to read it. There's a writing system on it, so it deals about knowledge and how to give knowledge on to other generations. And on top floor is a costume from an African community. It's a dance costume, so the theme is performance. So these are the 5 terms that we identified as key terms when doing research and going into the storerooms. And now, what do we do in the exhibitions? How can we implement these terms in the exhibitions and not going back to regional exhibitions? So these are 3 examples. I just picked 3 examples. Since the reopening, we have done more than 10 exhibitions. And the first, it's a bit difficult to translate into English, Eigensinn. We didn't find really a term in English that matches this term in Germany. We called it then intrinsic perspectives, translated to English, but I'm sorry, I cannot translate it better. And the 5 key terms that I presented, we showed them in an exhibition in a rather disturbing way. So I will show you the first picture. This was a video art done by a French and Mamadi Diallo, a man from Nigeria, if I'm not wrong. And it's about the black and the white. And you see white hands and you see black hands, you see a white background, a black background, and these hands are exchanging things. And in the first thing you think, oh, it's clear. It's kind of a European person exchanging goods with an African person, but then things get mixed up. And in the end, nobody really knows what is going on. And the funny thing about this, or the interesting thing about this, the white hands that you see here are actually the African hands that are painted white, and the black hands are the European hands painted black. And in the end, colored powder will be sprinkled over the hands, and you cannot see anything anymore. So it's about everything, what is going on the world. It's also a political statement. And besides, in the exhibition, we mixed objects from Europe, from Africa, from all over the world. We mixed valuable objects with not so valuable objects, everyday objects, and we grouped them according to these key terms of agency, space, knowledge, and so on. And you see also the new rooms in the museum. It's white, it's clear, it has windows, it has daylight, and we have a lot of empty space. So what we did with this exhibition is leaving much room for interpretation to the visitor. We did not say, look, this is an African society, or this is an Indonesian society, and this is how traditionally this society worked. But we grouped objects together, we gave explanations to them, we grouped them to certain terms that we chose, but each object could be grouped to another term. So it's visible from this exhibition that interpretation is something subjective, and it's not only us that is telling the visitors what is actually true, or what is their point of view, the only one that is valuable. There are many points of views, many ways of interpret objects and processes, social processes, and so on. This exhibition was met with a lot of criticism by traditional visitors of the museum. It was met with appreciation, mostly from overseas visitors or from international visitors. But having done this exhibition, we had the opportunity to show other exhibitions. And this is the first permanent exhibition that we did, and it's about the history of the museum. It's called Expeditions. From the 120 years of the museum's history, we chose 4 expeditions from 4 different eras. And what you see here is the first expedition from the Saracen cousins to what was then called Ceylon, Sri Lanka. And of course, they were trained as natural scientists, as botanists, zoologists, and the result of the collection is very much from a zoological and botanist perspective. And with this exhibition, we tried to explain how anthropology in Basel developed to the point where we are now. And well, this is the part of the Indonesian section of the expedition where textile technology first developed. Alfred Bühler became a famous textile scholar, and we are still following or try to follow in his footsteps. And the last, it's a future exhibition. It will open in October this year, 20th of October. And we kind of follow up with what Bühler did with textiles from Eastern Indonesia and Timor-Leste. But as you can see from the subtitle, Global Traces in Local Fashion, we try to give different aspects to the theme of globalization. We take textiles from the 16th to the 19th century that influenced textile production in Indonesia. So globalization is not something new. And we also state, or we propose, that besides Milano, London, and Paris, there are local fashion trends. One does not really associate the term fashion with ikat, hand-woven, handmade textiles of East Indonesia. But when you look at those textiles and when you talk to the weavers and you go to this area, then you see that things are always changing. Now there is a yellow color and pink color. A couple of years ago it was blue and red, and underneath you see a traditional textile with indigo and morinda dyed. So the weavers, they have always picked up ideas from outside and transformed them according to local tastes and local uses. And being modern is something of innovation, creativity. And weavers have done this for centuries, and they are still doing it now, despite cheap clothing produced in Bangladesh or China. So local textiles are something that are still very dynamic. Weaving is still very much alive, and there is a taste of local fashion. So this is an overview of the Museum of Cultures Basel, very short and very briefly. It's now the 5th year that we are open since the reopening in 2011, and we are trying to follow in the path that we have laid out in 2011. And so far, starting with the first exhibition, Eigensinn, where a lot of visitors were shocked and said, my God, this is not the anthropological museum I know. But having done other exhibitions, now visitors come back, and most of them, not all, but most of them start to appreciate that objects are not presented as a reality, as it is somewhere in faraway places, but there is room for interpretation. And we are not implicitly, but explicitly saying that what we present is what we have researched, and it's our point of view. There are different interpretations, and there are maybe different truths as well. And so coming back to the question, whose heritage? Of course, it's humanity's heritage that is stored in the museums. The collections in Basel are heritage of Basel University and the Basel Museum because it is part of Basel history, but it's a European heritage because anthropology in Basel actually started in Berlin, and it's international heritage, worldwide heritage, because we have anthropological collections and source communities are in Africa, Asia, America, all over the world. So this is what probably our director would also have said, or at least I hope so. Thank you very much.